Hi, everybody. It's me again. You're like, oh, okay, here, is she gonna start yelling at me again? I did want to just welcome everybody again to Women Catalyst. We're so happy to have all of you here tonight to share this evening with us. Woo, battling the rain, the like gloomy weather, and I guess there's also a game tonight. So thanks for joining us. If you haven't been to Women Catalyst before, we're a community of women and men that are supporting each other to make it happen. We started in February with our sort of signature interview series, and we've grown the programming through different partnerships, one of which being General Assembly. We started with a 2-part workshop series called How to Create the Career Path That You Love, and we've actually just started last week with a monthly co-working day, so Women Catalyst Community Day, where we had more than 50 women there last week with a series of different workshops. Mary Pratt led one, who's here. She showed how to tell your story through video. I also was part of the event doing a lunch and learn on sort of telling your story. And then we also had Alexa, who was talking about fashion and styling for getting what you want. And we'll actually be doing another one October 21st at General Assembly, and it'll be focused on wellness and holistic workshops. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. I also wanted to thank Galvanize for hosting us. 100% of our tickets go to the charity of our Catalyst choice. So if it wasn't for the generous support of Galvanize for a space, and they actually came in through in the clutch. We normally have been doing our events at Weebly, and they had a big launch tomorrow. So they let us know about a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago, and Galvanize stepped up. They actually were they hosted us our first 3 months of Women Catalyst. So big ups to Galvanize. Really wanted to thank them. I also really wanted to thank our volunteers that came tonight, all the women checking you in, serving wine. If it wasn't for our volunteers, Lindsay and I would have to multiply ourselves, and that wouldn't be pretty, would it? And then I also wanted to thank Kara. I also want to thank Kara for taking pictures tonight, Dan from Fishbowl. They've been filming our last event as well as tonight so that we can put all of our interviews on YouTube, as well as Google Women Tech Makers, which is also a sponsor for Women Catalyst. Really, if it wasn't for the support, we wouldn't be able to do what we love, which is really bring people together in meaningful ways. So with that, I'll sort of introduce this portion of the evening, which is our one-on-one interview. I did want to say just a few things about Danielle, and she'll tell you more, obviously, and also the charity we're supporting tonight. So the charity we're supporting tonight is actually an organization. It's a school that Danielle helped to co-found called the Innovations Academy, and it's really focused on purposeful learning. It's a charter school in San Diego, and actually I was on their website earlier, and there's a quote that really resonated with me. It was from Socrates, and it was like, I cannot teach anybody anything, I can only make them think. And I think that when we think about education and learning, that's really where the transformation happens, is when you get people thinking. And we like to do that through our events, is thinking about how you can connect in different ways. So we're super happy to be supporting the Innovations Academy. And with your ticket sales tonight, we've raised more than $1,500 for them tonight. So, every cent of those tickets goes towards the charity. And then also Danielle, which I'm very excited to hear more about this. She is part of the founding team of the Teal Fellowship. And then she just launched a fund, the 1517 Fund for Young Entrepreneurs, which is focused on high school and college students starting businesses. So she's really one of the first women in this space that we've had at Women Catalyst, and really excited to have her share her story. And I'm going to stop talking now and let them, catalyze.
Thank you, Kim. Kim flew in from New York like 3 hours ago. Woohoo! Yeah. You're a good teammate. Thank you. And thank you so much for being our guest tonight. I'm so happy to have you here. I want to tell everyone how we met. Or what will you tell everyone how we met?
All right. Oh my God, I have a mic. Let's see. So I went to a happy hour that's hosted here in San Francisco. I think it was one of the first or second I had actually been to. And it's hosted by someone who I just think is really fantastic in the professional world, actually, and in the personal world, too. His name is Augie Rakow from Oric. So if you ever need a lawyer, he's awesome. And he's just great. He loves to bring community together. which I think is sort of outside of the norm. But I came to this happy hour and I was looking around and sort of seeing, who do I want to go up and talk to? And it was quite noticeable that like Lindsay and I and just a few other people were the only women there. And so we sort of like melded.
Laura.
Oh, there we go. Woohoo, Laura. We sort of like melded together.
There were maybe 95 men there and 4 women.
Yeah.
It was pretty noticeable.
Yeah. I've seen
Thank you
others
for coming
have been
tonight,
more
guys.
balanced, but yeah, so it was definitely pretty noticeable. And so we all started talking, and I don't know. I thought, like Lindsay was telling me about the work that she was doing and her past work, and that was really interesting. And then we ended up getting together, I think, for coffee, and you told me more about what you want to do with Women Catalysts. And
Well, we met at a networking event. So think about all the awesome people you met tonight. What might come of that? And actually, you very generously invited me to have lunch with you after we met. She added me on LinkedIn like any good networker. Follow up. You invited me to lunch. You were still at the Teal Fellowship at the time. And you were actually giving me some really good tips. It was right before we launched Women Catalyst, and you gave me some really good practical tips, like have a photographer so people can see how fun the events are, and reach out to people after they come a few months down the road to see what actually ended up coming of that. So if something like this happens where you find yourself on a stage of sorts, email us. We'd love to hear about what's happening with the people you're meeting here. Okay, so you were at the Teal Fellowship, and you just left in recent months. Tell us what you're doing now.
Okay, so to tell you a little bit about what myself and my colleague are doing now, I'm a big fan of co-founders and working with great people. So Mike Gibson, who's here in the front row, is my co-founder. Yay! So Michael and I were both on the founding team of the Teal Fellowship, and we really wanted to expand our work with young people, and we really wanted to scale it out bigger. And the Teal Fellowship, for those of you who might know, is a grant given to about 20 young people each year. It's $100,000 along with mentorship and events and community and things like that. And we've always really liked the idea of like just going big or go home. And we saw an opportunity in the last year. We've been really thinking about it, of saying, hey, how do we scale the work that we're doing and take it to the next level? So we decided to launch a fund. And we've seen a large trend in young entrepreneurship going from something that was kind of harebrained 5 years ago when the fellowship first started to being actually pretty normal and acceptable. And people don't bat nearly the eyelashes that they used to. So yeah, we started this fund to do this, and to tell you a little bit more about what the fund does, because I think we're a little bit different, maybe even a lot bit different sometimes. We don't just fund companies, we really look at the people. And so one way that we do that is we give out 1K grants to people to help catalyze their work. We might meet a young person in high school or at a hackathon or at any number of events, and they have an interesting idea. They might not even think it's a business. And they'll come and pitch us. We're very approachable and down-to-earth people, and they'll say, here's what I'm doing, and we'll say, wow, this is really interesting. We really want to help you to keep doing what you're doing, not because it's for school, not because it's going to look good for college applications, not because it's going to be great on your resume, but because it's something you're really passionate about, and it's something that you really, really want to do. And we hope that $1,000 is an incentive for you to do that. But it's not just that, it's also our support. So we will work with people. Some people will email us weekly, monthly, and ask for support on what they're doing. These aren't our portfolio companies. This isn't like, oh, you're not a portfolio company, sorry, we don't have equity, you're just a grantee, it's just cash or something. We really want to sort of nurture them and see them through with what they're doing. And then we can fund people at the pre-seed and the seed level. So if something that they're doing is really taking off, we can come in later. And it's not like a stair sort of function. You don't have to come in at the grant level to get started with us. We'll work with you really at any stage. But we're particularly inspired by younger entrepreneurs in the high school and college level, just because young people have been infantilized for a long time. And I think it's gotten worse over time. And this is a way of saying to those, I like to say younger. As I'm getting older, I'm like, my definition of younger is also now getting older. Interesting. Like, younger used to mean...
I was about to say, am I too old?
Right. Younger used to be 10, and now it's 20. Like, interesting. But But yeah, we've just seen a lot of infantilization over time, but we think that young people have a lot of brilliance and a lot of great things that they're doing, and we want to help them with that. And so yeah, that's what we're about.
I just want to say that you really do exemplify that kind of generosity in terms of how you share your time and feedback, which is a big part of why I wanted Danielle to be here tonight to share with you guys. And I think you also have probably a very unique trajectory to starting a fund. I'm guessing that most people who start funds do not have the trajectory that you have, and I'd love for you to tell them about it.
So Michael and I can't wait for the headline that say philosopher and teacher start a VC fund, because that's what we are. Yeah, we have a very, very different trajectory. Do you want me to give some, like, a little historical?
Let's start with San Diego.
Okay, San Diego.
Or wherever you want.
Okay, great. I'll actually start with Boston. So I grew up in Boston. I'm an East Coaster through and through. If you are late to a meeting with me, I will cry. Just letting you know, like, I don't know, it just gets me, like, the East Coast is still in there. But I grew up in Boston for my whole life. I was very much on a tracked path. I thought I was going to go to grad school. I thought I might become a neurologist. That was sort of the avenue I was going in. And things changed. Let's see, where to start. So I remember doing graduate school applications when I was about 21 years old. And something just didn't feel right. And I'm much more sort of intuition driven than I used to be. I used to be more maybe almost socially driven, I would say, where other people would say, wow, like neurology, that's awesome, you should totally do that. And before that, I would tell people that I was thinking about majoring in education in school, and people would not be interested. Like, the people I hung out with were sort of more scientist types, and they were like, oh, education, not so cool. So I was really, yeah, I mean, and in some ways, there's a lot of crappy stuff that happens in education, so I could understand that too. But I started listening to my gut more, and there was sort of a pivotal moment where I remember waking up one day and thinking, I had this anxiety that was sort of, I could feel it sort of in my gut, and I thought, you know, if becoming an adult means getting up every day and doing something I don't really like, or just going to an office, and I liked neurology stuff. It was interesting to me, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. I thought about when I played music as a kid, or, you know, did all these other things, and I was like super driven about it. But I thought, gosh, I don't want to do that. And I found that feeling inside me of, I want to wake up every day saying, like, hell yeah, like, let's get up and go. And that has been a real driving force for me. So I started thinking about what would my hell yeah be. And what it basically came to was thinking about education, and I love blending things together, so I thought about blending together the things I had learned in neurology and working in a neurology department and education. So I started a tutoring company. I actually moved all the way to San Diego to do it, in large part, for love. I had a boyfriend who lived in San Diego, so I was like, hey, new life, let's go. So I went there to do it.
Love's a great reason.
Yeah, love's a great reason. Yeah, I'm much more open about it now. When I was in my 20s, I used to not talk about that part. I was like, oh, it's not professional to say I moved for love, and and now I'm like, yeah, love, like, awesome, yeah. So yeah, I'm a big mover for love. We'll get to the second move for love momentarily. Different partner, more love. But yeah, started a tutoring company there. Sort of took a leap of faith. Everybody around me said, like, oh, you can't really start a business in that, which I find hysterical now, because in joining with the Teal Fellowship, it's like people are saying, oh, you can't start this hardware company, or you can't do that. And like, these are really hard things. Starting a tutoring company or like an educational consulting service isn't that hard. One of my mottos is just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and just keep doing that, and you'll get to where you want to be. But so I started that. And through that, I met homeschooled students, and that community of people just completely blew my mind. I felt like I found my tribe. These people were insatiably curious learners, and not just the kids, but the parents, and I just felt like I found my family. So those people really inspired me a lot in San Diego. And through that community, I met my colleague, Coughlin, who's also like a sister or like an aunt to me. we co-founded Innovations Academy together. She came to me one day, she has 4 children, and she said, my kids have started saying they want to go to school, but why would they want to do that? They have like the best teacher, me, right here. But one thing that's so amazing about my friend Christine is that she listens to her children really deeply and considers everything they say as a possibility, and doesn't mean like being willy-nilly, but she really deeply listens and asks questions and is great with inquiry. So when she came to me, I was like, you want to start a school? Why would we want to do that? We hate school. Like, we're homeschoolers. Like, this is what we do. And she thought, well, maybe we can sort of scale some of what works in the homeschooling world and bring it into a school. And those things being relationship-based teaching and project-based learning predominantly. So I was like, okay, let's try that. And so I just said yes. Neither one of us knew what we were doing at all. She had been a teacher for many years. I don't have an education degree. We were just both super passionate. We put one foot in front of the other, and 2 years later we had our school. From there, I'm trying to like zip this story pretty quick here. I was school principal for 2 years. That was both like the most amazing thing I've ever done and the most challenging. We opened with 160 students, and today we have 400 students. I'm still on the board of the school. And during that time, I met my boyfriend, James. He's at the back there in the white t-shirt. And so I moved for love again. So 2 years down the line, it was, well, we got high fives. Oh, it's Diane. Hi, Diane. He's like, yeah, Diane's like, yeah, I know her. She's cool. Like, that's a good move. But yeah, James and I have been dating for a year, and it's time to figure out who is going to go where. And to be really honest, I was also ready for something new. I very much flourish in environments that are very free and have a lot of choice, and being a school principal means being very tied down and very like every day you're there from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and it's amazing, but it was also something that was just really, really hard on me. So I moved up to the Bay Area. I took this really big leap of faith. I was crying a lot because and this was 5 years ago. I thought it was super expensive to move here, and it was. I think now I would just be like, no, I'm not moving there. You're coming to San Diego. And in addition, I'm not a tech person, so I was also crying because I was like, I'm not a coder. No one's going to value my skills. And here I am a VC now. But yeah, so I moved up here, and it was sort of a leap of faith. And through many connections, in part actually through James. James was with an organization that was funded by the Teal Foundation. I just became friends with a couple of people at the organization and sort of knew what they were doing. And so someone called me one day and said, hey, they started this new program, and you've got to come check it out. And I was really excited about it. It was the Teal Fellowship, and they had just launched it. And I'm a very planning point A to point B to get all the way to Z sort of person. But what I found out was that it was like, they had thought about education as a theme for a long time, but the idea for the fellowship itself was like this creative burst that happened in a very short amount of time. And so when I came in, I was like, wow, like what exists now? And they were like, nothing. And I was like, wow, that's awesome, because I don't want to be a manager. Like, I sort of like even cringe at that word. Like, I don't want to like manage something that is somebody else's dream. I want to craft it. And so myself and Michael got to craft the fellowship, which is a really, really amazing experience. We learned so much. The first year was up and down like any sort of startup or new organization, learning a ton, working with these amazing, amazing young people, an amazing community of mentors and other people that were helping us. And then from there, Michael and I said, hey, 5 years later, fast forward, we want to take this plunge and start this fund. And we got Peter's blessing to do that, which was really exciting. And sort of here we are today. Yeah.
One of the things that I watched a few videos, actually. I prepare for these, believe it or not. One of the things you said that really resonated with me was that the purpose or part of the drive behind the Teal Fellowship was to shake up notions about what it takes to succeed in the world today, which is such an interesting idea to me, and I'm wondering how that's informing what you two are doing now.
It informs a lot of what we're doing now, like that notion of what does it take to succeed. I think we live in a really different time than even 10 years ago. School is a lot more expensive. There's a lot more pressure about not only do you need to go to school, you need to do the unpaid internship, and then you need to go to grad school or you become a lawyer or so on. I think that the environment is just really different, but I think one thing that hasn't changed is sort of the social sort of meme behind things. So education is important, period. I totally agree with that. What education looks like, I think, can be very, very different. Does education belong within four walls? No. Where does it belong? I'm not entirely sure. I kind of hope that it belongs sort of inside and is something that we're cultivating all the time. But when we talk about success and where people are going, I think people sort of look to like education, meaning higher education, as a as sort of a cure-all for, this will help you get to where you are. But what people don't understand is that the landscape has changed and people are in debt.
Yeah, tell that to my English degree.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I met a young woman early on in the fellowship, actually. I remember sitting at a picnic table in my backyard, and she came over, and she was, maybe 20, 21. And she said, I started down the path of getting this marketing degree at my school, and halfway through I realized that I didn't want to do it, but I didn't feel like I could change because I was already $30,000 in debt at the time, and I just felt like I had to do it. And then she figured out during her senior year that what she really, really wanted to do was to become a doula. And now she's $60,000 in debt with a marketing degree, and she really wants to go back to school to be a doula, and she didn't know how she could do it. And she actually had a sister who was financially stable enough to be able to, because it's not just the financials of the school, it's the loan payments. Like that's like the real killer. And she was just telling me this story, and it hit home so much because I was lucky. I finished school only $10K in debt, and I paid it off at 2% interest over 10 years. And so it's pretty good. And at 18, I didn't know what I would have done otherwise, so that was the right choice for me. But it's just, I just don't think, and we don't think that one path fits for all, and that success can mean going to school or starting something on your own, or even traveling and just getting more perspective. The world's a really big place.
That's what I heard.
Yeah. Me too. I haven't been nearly as around as I want to be. But
well, you were tethered to that school for a while, and you, for someone who doesn't like to be tethered, you're pretty commitment driven. Yeah. Speaking of, one of the things that we talked about in advance of doing this was commitment to having a personal mission or having that be a guiding force. So I think that's probably something that a lot of our audience is interested in. I think a lot of them are in transition and they want to wake up and be like, hell yeah, every day. So tell us about your mission and maybe how to find it if you haven't yet. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I think having a North Star is really, really important. And I think that can look a couple different ways. I think it can look like having a mission statement. I think it can look like having a mantra. I can even think about it as just like having a gut feeling about something, like that gut feeling I had when I was 22 about I want to wake up every day and have a hell yeah. That's not like a mission statement, but but it did guide me to hell yeah, which is really important to be able to feel it. My personal mission when I was younger, when I was 22, I think had to do with changing education. And I think that it was sort of just broad like that, like, okay, I really want to work to change education and to enable young people to have choice. And actually, I think that's the bigger mission even than education. Education is more like how I do that. One thing that for me is important is to think about who do I want to serve. That just becomes really clear for me. My colleague and I, when we started our school, we knew the kids who wanted to come to our school, and we could, meet them and see them or know them. So whenever I'm talking to someone, I say, like, take pictures of the people or the things that you want to serve and put them out in front of you where you can't not see them. Because it's just this reminder viscerally every day of like, oh yeah, that's who I'm serving. So I knew that I wanted to serve children, and now I sort of say young people, children, and I don't know, 20-year-olds aren't children, but they're younger people. And someday when I'm like 80, I'll be like, 60-year-olds, amazing.
I think that's really important too, because it evolves. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that a lot, because when I was coming in, I've been thinking about more like what's my personal mission more, because I haven't really said, like I know what it feels like now more than just saying it out loud all the time. And I just noticed that evolution of like, it used to be about serving children, and now it's about serving young people. And I've even seen over time, like an amazing influence of being at the Teal Foundation was just going to the Oslo Freedom Forum, which is about people who are really going against corrupt governments and things like that. And I could even see for myself just feeling like if I was serving those people, I would feel really, really good. And they're not children or necessarily young people. Some of them are much, much older than I am. But like this idea of being in service to something is something that drives me a lot. So I think today my sort of mission is more about really enabling young people to make choice. And that can mean starting a business, or that could mean pursuing a passion, or any number of things. How you do something is really like your channel, or the catalyst for something. So my school was a channel for enabling these young people. The fund is a channel for doing that. So I think it's important to relate this North Star of enabling young people to how I'm going to do it. I think a really great quality of a really good sort of mission statement or guiding North Star is that it's asymptotic, meaning that you can keep getting closer and closer to the end, but you never actually reach it. So for example, like who's had Buy Right ice cream? Yeah, it's good. So Buy Right has a mission, and Buy Right's mission is creating community, but it's through food. So creating community is a huge mission. They could do that forever. They're never going to stop creating community. And so I think that's what makes a really good mission. And then just like your sort of angles on how you're doing something can change and can shift, and I think should. And so like I guess my piece of advice would be to steer away from having a mission that has sort of a clear end point, or is like, I'm going to build a school. And it's like, okay, check, like did it. So like, but what's my higher calling? Like what's that thing that is going to be there after I do the thing and it is, effectively done?
How many of you know what your North Star is, or your mantra, or your mission statement? Well, a little higher if you got it, come on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sort of. We're kind of like in the range. That's great.
Can I add a little bit about mantra too?
Yes.
It's a little bit different for me. So then there's sort of like the how I go about things. And so there's a couple mantras. And it's funny, it's only been through other people that I've discovered that these are mantras, because people are like, oh yeah, you gave me that advice 7 times already. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm like, that must be an important one. And one of them is one foot in front of the other. And that's just this mantra. I had one Teal Fellow, actually, this young woman who... she wrote to me and she was talking about something, and I was like, yeah, one foot in front of the other. She's like, oh yeah, I've heard that again and again and again. It's like, okay, so that's that one. But the other mantra that actually sticks with me so much more is just add value, period. So then, which is like an awesome thing, but is also can be conflicting, because there are a lot of priorities that like I have, but then someone comes to me and they're like, I'm doing this thing and I need help with this. And I'm like, oh, add value. Must add more value. And so connect people and do this and do that. And I love doing all that. And at the same time, I'm trying to learn about how do I balance like my yeses and nos and things like that. Because we don't have infinite time and resources and things like that. But at the same time, I also know the power of like connecting to people, or giving someone feedback on something, or even just sitting down at lunch. And so every time I say no, I feel like a little bit of pain of, wow, what could have been, and that like keeps me up at night sometimes.
I would imagine that a lot of us have a hard time with that. I don't like to say no either. I like to be of service to people. Well, I think you're very good at it. I think you're very generous, and I appreciate that about you. I want to open it up to the audience now, because I think that they probably have some questions for you too. Kim, can I give you the mic? Yeah. It helps if you speak into the mic rather than down here. Yeah?
All right, I saw this person first.
Hi. My name's Angelis, and my question is, when you are considering an idea, when do you know to add more people to the idea, like, and the skill sets, like, because it sounded like you transitioned from being the principal to the board, and like, how did you know when that was the right time to do that?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. I think with that specific example of like transitioning from being the principal to being on the board, part of that was a matter of personal circumstance for like, what do I want for my personal life and where do I want to be, and making sort of that priority change off. Another was just also noticing like my own energy about being a school principal and really seeing like, this is not I love my school and I love that I launched it. And I know for myself that like being a school principal for the rest of my life is probably not something that I wanted to do. And so when I had clarity about that, it made making that jump a little bit easier. For me, usually when I'm thinking about these kind of hard things, I like to talk with other people. I also like to sort of think about things by myself. I can be kind of stubborn where I want to make a decision before telling too many people about it and talking about it. And so that happens on sort of like the closing end of things. On the starting end of things, I guess like a theme here is sort of like collaboration. I love working with other people. So when my colleague came to me and told me about what she had in mind for starting a school, I was like, oh, this is so interesting. I don't think I'm really the type of person who says I'm a lone wolf, I'm gonna go do it by myself, and like I'm gonna find the people who are gonna do it with me. For me, it really is about relationship and finding that other person who will get right in there with me and say, okay, let's go do this. From there, I find that, obviously you need more people to help and to do things. But starting with those two, I think just starts with like a firmer base rather than like starting off on my own. Yeah, if that makes sense and answers your question.
Did you subconsciously, like before the person asked you, were ready for that?
Was ready for the person that like asked me that? No. Like when my colleague asked me to start the school, I just thought she was nuts. I was like, I was so shocked, and like my first reaction was like, no, not no, like I don't want to do that with you, but like, no, why would we want to do that? And other people had asked me in my tutoring business, they were like, you've got to start a school. You'd be so great for this. And I was like, haha, no, like there's no way. But it took her coming. And I think part of it is like, I do like to reflect. I will say to people, hey, let me sleep on this, or let me think about it, or let's brainstorm about this more. I am really serious about my commitments. But I'm also really serious about being super thoughtful before I commit. So I do take that time and space, and it wasn't, like none of the things that I've agreed to do have ever been like, oh yeah, that, totally. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm starting a VC fund. Like, no. Like, even the tutoring business, until I sort of dug into it and realized, okay, this makes sense for me, I had to take that time and space. But I also think that like finding the right people is super important. Like I said earlier, I'm super relationship driven. So, and also I get really jazzed when other people are really jazzed. So I actually remember going out and meeting this guy once. It was sort of one of those pseudo dates where you hang out. And it was just like the first meeting, and he was super passionate about beer. And he was talking all about beer, and I hate beer. I'm so not into beer at all. But the way he talked about it, I was like, God, I want to go drinking with you. Like, you're amazing about beer. Like, so when someone comes to me and is really excited about something, then I'm really excited about it. And this is played out in the fellowship and everything we do with our portfolio companies, where it's like, I know nothing about LiDAR systems, but I'm going to be really excited that you know a lot about LiDAR systems, like, because you're really jazzed about it. And then I get super pumped and just feed off that.
Hi, I have a microphone and I'll pass it. I'm Laura, and my question for you is there something you took away process-wise new from the fellowship, or from, you have a wide range in the fellows? Is there something you learned from them that was different or new?
Gotta think about it. Yes, the answer is yes. Many things. the first word that comes to mind is something about trust. So I would have my own idea of, what something should look like, or even like a simple thing like a retreat we would have or something like that. And like, I don't know, my idea of hanging out with people is having tea. And sitting and chatting, and so like the things that I would do would have that sort of element in it. But fellows would come to me and say like, oh, we want to do like exciting things and stuff like that. And then we ended up bringing on Bodana, who's actually in the second row here, and Bodana was our amazing event curator, who now has her own business, 10 Forward Events. And she brought a totally different flavor. Like she snowboards and does things in the wild and in the water, and is like, that sounds really weird, but she brought this other flavor. And so like there's this element of trust, of like trusting that, there's trust in like people want something because they know something that I don't know or understand, or even like have an appreciation for. Like, I mean, I love all the stuff that we did, and it opened up my eyes to all kinds of new things, but it was just not something I would have thought like, oh yeah, let's snowboard or this or that. So there's sort of the trust element. And then there's always this work of not taking things personally, of like, if someone isn't jiving with what you've set up or what you've done, or doesn't take your advice or whatever, it's not personal. It's just they're doing their thing and you're doing your thing, and sometimes that intersects and sometimes it doesn't. And that was just like a constant, everyday kind of realization. But there was a ton that I learned from working with fellows, and not just like subject-wise about different areas, but like interpersonal things, what's important to millennials now, why people in California don't show up on time, and I don't need to go totally crazy about it. Like things like that. That's that like not taking it personally thing. On the East Coast, if you do that, it's like disrespectful, and it like means something about you. So yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
Could you talk a little about how you started the fund? Is it an investment, or are they grants? And how did you give yourself the permission, or how did it come about?
So how did it come about? I mean, so the fund was something that Michael and I have talked about for a long time. Even during the second year of the fellowship, we were kind of scratching our heads. We were like, like we're helping people a lot in the way that we think a seed fund would help them in terms of like advice or getting connected to the right people and all the things like that. But we're like, but we're not making an investment. So that's sort of interesting. And part of it was seeing over time what played out. And so to date, Fellows companies are now worth over $1 billion in market capital. And we were like, wow, those would have been really good investments. Damn. And like the most exciting thing is like that this is a scalable thing of like an investment to something that we can say, hey, we're going to do a fund 2 and a fund 3, and we're going to get other people excited about this and be able to make it like bigger and bigger. I mean, we really want where we're going with this not to just be like me and Michael for the rest of time, but to build out like sort of, I actually even hesitate to say organization, because actually my goal with anything like this is actually that, like, in some sense, that we do our job so well that we can cease to exist. And so if we've done our job really well, it should be super normal for anybody who wants to start a company to start it without anybody batting an eyelash, or a young person getting grant money from somewhere, or not even just a young person. Like, so when I'm 80, like a 60-year-old will be my young person. So that anyone can like find grant funding to help them get kickstarted and things like that. We just want these things to be really, really normal, and I think that's when our job will be done, not when we have like the biggest fund ever or have made X number of portfolio companies or things like that.
Hello. So I'm really glad we all met that one night. Good job. My question is, I was just wondering where the name came from.
Oh, yes. 1517. So, I know, a few people know. Okay, so great question. I realized I didn't say that earlier, and I was like, maybe I won't tell about the name. So the name, I give full credit to Michael, because Michael thought of the name. And Michael is old school, and he keeps a real notepad, like a paper one. And so I was walking by his desk one day, and I saw him scratching these numbers down, 1517, and I was like, oh, what's that? And like, Mike's history buff. And he's like, oh, you know, it's the year of the Protestant Reformation. And I was like, all right, like, tell me more about the Protestant Reformation. And he said, you know, during this time, you know, the church, a large institution, was charging people a large sum of money to get an indulgence. And so this was a piece of paper to save your soul and absolve you of your sins. You could not have your own relationship with God. You had to go and have a relationship with the church, and the church would have your relationship with God for you. This also included things like masses and even Bibles. So people couldn't have their own at that time. And so in protest, Martin Luther nailed his theses to the church door, saying this is absurd. No one should have to pay, essentially, to be absolved of their sins. Also, just another historical point, the printing press also came out in 1517. So it was this piece of technology that radically changed the way that people did so many things. I mean, we get books, we get self-knowledge and education. People could have their own Bibles. They could be printed in multiple languages. I'm not a big religious person myself, but like you can see all the implications, you know, of that in that time. So we like to say that in 2015, there's another institution, higher education, that is saying that to save your soul, you have to buy a very expensive piece of paper, and you can't do it by yourself, and you can't be self-educated. But the truth is that the tools are out there. You can get out there. We've all seen Good Will Hunting. This is old school. Like, you can go to a library and get this done. This should not be controversial at all. But it's hugely controversial because it is an institution. There are many, many incentives at play, and we need to be more aware of them. On the bright side, like the positive side of the 1517 thing, and sort of, I don't like to say like the less aggro, like there's a little bit of that, like, yeah, we're fighting the system. But on the other side, it's like the dawn of a new era. In 1517, if you wanted to have your own relationship with God, you know, and have your own Bible and things like that, you finally could, whereas you couldn't before. And today we think it's true too, that it's the dawn of a new era. People are going to, you know, short technical schools and like places like Galvanize to get their education now. People are doing a lot of self-taught work. Some people are just saying like, screw it, I'm doing my own thing, I'm gonna travel for a year and I'm gonna figure life out, and, you know, just really, you know, listening to themselves over institutions. And so we're really inspired to see what will come out of that in like another 10 years. Yeah.
We met for lunch a couple of months ago when you had just started, and you hadn't told me about the printing press part. I didn't know that. I like it even more.
Shh, I didn't know about the printing press either. Not a history buff. So I think Michael had brought up the printing press at one point, and I was like, I like this even more now. This is awesome. Yeah. So we're building our website right now, and there will be like sort of allusions to these types of things.
So we close our talk each time by doing celebrations. Celebration is really core to what we wanted to do here with Women Catalyst in general. A lot of you have already heard this story, but we were drinking beer in the park when we came up with the idea. I know you don't like beer. You can have tea or whatever you want. I think it's really important to acknowledge what's good and to do it publicly and to allow other people to share in your joy and your happiness and all the things that are really great. So if you're celebrating something today, will you tell us about it, and can we celebrate it with you? Anybody at all? This is free form. Just raise your hand. Yes.
Yell it out.
We hired an amazing employee today.
Woo!
She had an offer to report to the person who reports to Tim Cook, and she took our offer.
Ooh, all right. Congratulations. Who else? Yeah.
I'm an elementary school counselor, and today we started our power hour for our 5th grade girls.
Zara.
After 8 weeks, today I finally finished my free ebook. 3 quick ways to get unstuck.
Woo! Congratulations, Sarah. So there's one over here. Yeah, Kira.
I'm celebrating
Woo!
So it's been a very telling experience so far, and I'm excited for the rest 11.
Yeah, not only are you doing the Artist Way, but you're leading the Artist Way for us. We have a group of like 70 people doing it together. 75. Woo!
Today, I and two other people who are here today actually decided to host a symposium on artificial intelligence.
Congratulations. Kiki.
I'm celebrating that I will be doing a workshop at the next Catalyst Tour.
Woo! What about this side?
All right, guys. Now,
Yeah.
if this were an audience of mostly men, I'd be calling out the same way, saying, "Where are my ladies? So where are my guys at? Like, come on, let's go."
Yes.
Julia already just revealed our AI workshop, so that's great. But I'd like to introduce Allison, that's visiting from Germany and England, and this is her foray into the tech scene here locally.
Welcome.
I got to see Neil deGrasse Tyson this week in person.
That's big.
And for those of you who know me, he's like my spirit animal.
I made her a shirt for her birthday that says Neil deGrasse Tyson is my spirit animal. Wow. Were you wearing it?
Everything, or not to be fangirl, like get up and like start to run over and be like, Neil. Love that.
Wait. Did you wear the T-shirt? Did you wear the T-shirt there?
It was through work, so you gotta draw the crazy line. I didn't wear the earrings either.
She has earrings with his face on them, right? Who else is celebrating? Yes.
I'm celebrating a week of relaxation after throwing a huge event.
It's called Come Out and Play SF. You guys all missed it for this year.
And now we know about it for next year.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we have quarterly fundraiser events too.
Great. Keep us posted. What about you?
I'm celebrating that my younger brother moved to the Bay Area this weekend, and is already inviting me to interesting things.
Awesome. Yeah?
I'm celebrating, just received word today that Marie Claire, like big publication, is going to cover my app. So
Cool. That's awesome. What's your app called? What's your app called? Nectar.
we help people fall in love while saving the world.
Does it include a move? Include a move.
Yeah, if it includes a move, I don't know.
I think we had another one in that row. No, maybe? Okay, yeah.
I'm celebrating. I just decided to start my look and Disney jobs and I'm going to interview this week.
Congratulations. All right, any last ones? Yes, Susie.
I'm celebrating that I made a sketch note of this session.
That's so cool.
Something I'm excited about.
Well, will you share it with us later? Yes, we'd love to see. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we got another one. Yeah.
Being inspired by the community event last week, I created like a women's and catalyst bottle that will fund water projects in Africa, which you might have seen on the Facebook page. And I think it was because of this like thing that inspired me to like create my own campaign bottle. So check it out if you want to buy one, let me know, and then hopefully we'll be able to give back to the catalyst through the bottle as well.
Well, the one bottle buys 5 years worth of water.
Each bottle, but they look like this.
They're super cute.
They'll say you're a catalyst, so you can be loud and proud about it when you're out and about. So each bottle will spend 5 years of clean water for someone in Ghana. So these communities don't have water as it stands. It's like puddles in the ground. So it's pretty awful when you see it, but then the joyful part is that we can give them water. So yeah, so if you'd like one,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Thank you. You guys are so awesome. I'm celebrating all of you. I'm celebrating you. I'm selling my partner in crime, Kim, or cause in crime, both, you know. Yeah, where is he? You've got him. Okay. He's so small. It's hard to see. Any parting thoughts you want to leave? Oh yeah. Where is she? We have our youngest ever catalyst by a long shot. Woohoo! There's Emma.
She's like, what?
Woo! Emma, how old are you? 4.5. So she's your next.
Yeah. Oh no! Like, yeah, Yes, grants. It's like, wait, what are you implying? Scary. Okay, hold on. Getting back on the train. Yes. No. Just to close out. I want to thank you all for being here. I was really flabbergasted when I saw, like, wow, like a whole bunch of people want to come and hear me say stuff. And I like the Socrates quote of, I'm not really here to teach you anything. I can, only hopefully make you think about something. It's just been really flattering to be here. And I'm also like really thrilled too, because when Lindsay and I were first talking, she was saying, hey, it can be really good to do like a nonprofit partner that's like right here, because sometimes that can drive people to come. And I was like, oh, I feel a little funny fundraising for somebody else other than my school, like, when I could do this being on the board and things like that. And it's going to be so awesome when I get to call my co-founder, and who's now the principal of the school, and say like, hey, here's $1,500. What do you want to do with it? So thank you so much. Yeah. And on top of it, like the best part too is like it's like I don't know how to say it, it's like painless money. Like we do bake sales and crazy things. So actually, if Stephanie asked earlier if anyone had ideas for thoughts for help and stuff. If anyone knows anyone in San Diego in particular who's interested in donations for a nonprofit charter school, we're always happy to take those. And so this is really great, just because it'll help out to do all kinds of things we want to do. So thank you so much.